Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Megastar's Coffee for Closers podcast. My name is Alex Wellings. I will be your host through this journey. I am the Chief Sales Officer here at Megastar Advisors, and, the reason we wanted to jump in and start doing a podcast, because I know what everybody's thinking probably as they're listening to the first couple seconds of this is, good God, the world definitely needs another podcast. I want you to know this is going to be something truly valuable to y'all's practice this year. We are going to be bringing some of the top talent in the industry, onto the show here and getting their best practices, marketing ideas, sales tips. I'm gonna interview all of our top producers and get into their heads on what they're doing in their practice that is helping them achieve these incredible production numbers. And maybe not even just production. We might also want to talk to them about, how did they get that quality of life back after they achieved these numbers? What is their succession planning that they've done? We're going to be bringing everything under the sun to you guys using this platform, this podcast platform. It's something you guys can listen to on your way into the office. You can listen to it on your lunch breaks. You can listen to it on the weekend before you go in. Get your week started the right way. But this is going to be something truly valuable, we hope. And, we thought we would start it off this week with the first ever episode with Brian Benham. Brian Benham is our national sales trainer, for one. But I didn't want to just interview national sales trainer Brian. I wanted to interview top producer Brian, because I think a lot of you folks that have been with Megastar for a long time recognize him as a trainer, but don't also realize that he's been a top producer with Megastar for a really, really long time, since basically the inception of Megastar and before that in the USA Tax days. He has everything under the sun. He uses almost every Megastar marketing platform. He does taxes, he does federal workshops, he does learning lab workshops, he does everything that we've basically ever instilled out there. And I thought he'd be great to interview about planning your year, because Brian, since I've known him, has always wanted to sit down in November and December and get his planning done. And he's going to talk a little bit about the benefits of doing that, what it allows him to do from a head perspective, allows him to focus on his year. And I think the interview got really, really good information about what he's able to accomplish in a year because of the fact that he's just kind of forgotten about his plan. He gets it all on paper, and then he just runs with it. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about 2019's plan that, it was a year that kind of started off a little flat for Brian, but he was able to take an audible and change some of his plan around and come out with one of the most profitable years of his career in the industry. So I thought it'd be really, really good for the first episode to get Brian on the horn and hear his inputs about planning your year and the importance of doing it. Without further ado, I want to bring Brian Benham onto the show, and I hope you guys enjoy. If you have comments, questions, you want to hear something on the show, you shoot over an email to anybody at the Megastar team, and we'll get it in the queue to make sure we put an episode out there for you. Without further ado, let's get into this. I hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for listening.
Brian, thanks for being on the show today.
Alex, obviously I welcome an opportunity to chat with you. You and I we talk all the time, not just about the federal space and all that, but about Brian Benham's production in general.
Yeah, a lot of people might forget, obviously, because you're in the spotlight all the time, from a training perspective, that you also have a huge practice to run over there in Indianapolis. I guess first start out by just talking a little bit about your practice. What services do you guys offer out of the office, and remind everybody what you do as far as marketing systems and such.
Okay, well, our relationship with Megastar goes way back to the beginning, because we've had a tax practice. I believe we're going into our 12th tax season, and so our foundation is our tax model. So, and obviously, here we are, January the 10th. We're heavy into our early stages, I should say, of our tax service that we do every year. And probably from a marketing standpoint, in our tax service, not only will we do 1,300 tax returns this year, but of those, we're going to have a couple hundred that are new and referrals. So, wow. From our planning perspective, one of the things that I get into, because our tax service, it is what it is at this point, because it's so established and my staff pretty much runs it. I try to come up with marketing strategies to increase our client opportunities from a referral standpoint. So that's one of our legs on which we're counting on our future production to go up here in our office in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm. Now, that paired with seminar marketing and the Fed stuff that you're doing as well, right?
Right. And, Alex, right as you said that, I was thinking that several years ago when we started the federal program, man, this is 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever it was.
Yep.
I remember we had what was it, Alex? Was it a call of the month? Didn't we do a phone call of the month with people in the federal system?
Everybody from the federal program would jump on a call, much like the webinars we do today. But we used to do that once a month. Yep, second Tuesday of every month.
I think that's what it was. But if you'll recall, Alex, if we go back and we pull those archives, the first call of the year, I always ask this question of all the people on the call. I ask this question: what are you going to do this year that is different than what you did last year? And that's on which we establish our marketing strategy for the year, is what are we going to do this year that we did differently last year? Or maybe what are we going to do differently that we knew we should have done last year, but we just didn't get around to doing it? And we all, obviously, we set goals annually, which everybody should. And if you don't, I think that's the number one negative. I think you've got to set goals, but we also have target points quarterly throughout the year that we evaluate where we are on our quarterly mission. Just before I answered your call, I was looking at, it's only January the 10th, but I have a goal for January. So I already was trying to determine, am I on track to meet my goal, my production goal for the month of January? Because for us, January is always kind of a tough month, because you come out of the holidays, you got a couple of week lull, and I really gear it down personally during the holidays. I take those 2 weeks. I'm hardly ever in the office, I have to admit. That's why I don't answer your phone calls, Alex, because I'm probably not in. But I really back off, because that's our time to recharge. And so that carries over to January, obviously. And I think everybody listening to this message understands that January is tough. But I'm already on. I know I'm on track for $1 million goal for this month of January, and that's critically important. But the problem that we run into, and why I think January is probably the most sensitive month of the entire year that people need to meet their goal, is you don't want to start out not meeting your goal in the very first month of the year, because you're always playing catch up. But what we do,
or then you're making excuses to change things too. You start pivoting and changing your business plan instead of playing catch up, because you don't feel like you want to start off the year playing catch up, right? I see that a lot too.
Oh, that's right. But when we created this goal, I guess I should step back, because we're I think relatively aggressive with our goal, our production goals, and what we've set up, our business model and plan for this year. But I'm going to go back about 7 months, because Alex, I think you'll know where I'm going, because last year mid-year, when we did our evaluation as our determination of where we were on our goals in the middle of the year, we were not close to where I wanted to be. And because of that, I look back and I ask my question: what am I going to do different for the rest of the year that I didn't do right in the first 6 months of 2019? And one of the goals that I fell short was my personal workshop production. And I kind of got out of the game a little bit. Now, a lot of folks that are listening to this, you all know me as the national trainer and all that. I'm talking solely today as an agent. I'm not your trainer today. I'm talking solely as an agent today, because behind the scenes and all this stuff, I still am just a producer here in Indianapolis. And I've got my son on board, and we run an office, and we run our tax preparation firm. But I still do the same stuff that everybody else that's listening to this should recognize. So I'm not a trainer today or a national director. I'm just a guy that's a producer just like you. But last year, in the middle of the year, I realized that I wasn't doing what I said I was going to do earlier in the year. And then, Alex, you said to me, hey, you should jump into this Learning Lab program. Now, obviously, I was involved in the Learning Lab and a little bit of its development. Mainly that was you guys, Megastar. I'm sorry, you guys. It's all us. But
right.
That was building this thing. And I'm the national trainer, and I didn't even realize how good it was. And so, as you know, last summer, I scheduled a series of events in the third quarter of 2019. And this is not just me, but Logan and I both. We were extremely aggressive. Logan just attended the workshops with me. We didn't double dip with Logan, but he came to all my workshops. He helped support me at the workshops. But we used the marketing program that you guys established, the Learning Lab model, and we were filling our events. Every single event we did was to capacity. Every event that we did in the Social Security model, and by the way, folks, this isn't necessarily a commercial for Learning Lab. You should take it that way, but it's really not what I'm trying to do. We were
right. It's more of a just a lesson in planning and hedging, or sometimes you need to just change halfway through the year to make those goals happen. It's like it's okay to slip behind.
You're right.
Things we can do.
Well, and it worked for us because we recognized that we weren't doing what we should have been doing. We changed the gears. I remember one of the first events that we did, I was hoping for 40. We had 80 registered, and one of the worst summer thunder lightning storms came through at 5 o'clock, and I just thought there's no way. I mean, it was downpours, cats and dogs. We still had 52 people show up. And, wow. I mean, like our springboard, and we literally... our production spiked, and we literally were writing millions of dollars every month for several months. And then in November, December, we backed off a little bit because I had other personal obligations. But we recognized in that third quarter that is what we're going to base our planning for 2020 on. And so we kind of fine-tuned our system during that third quarter. We are going to maximize Learning Lab with what we're doing forward. And so we went out and we kind of determined between my schedule, because I do have duties on the federal side in training with obviously all of us at Megastar, but on a personal level, we went out and we forecasted, not just forecast, we set up 15 dates for us. Now, for some people, you can do more than this.
Sure.
But for us to meet our goals, we set up 15 Social Security events, already scheduled for the year. The first quarter, they're already scheduled, arranged. We've got confirmation from all of our sites. We've already started the marketing process for proofs and that type of thing. But we have 15 Social Security events scheduled. We have 8 federal events. So we have 23 events scheduled. The idea is try to hit a couple a month, one way or the other, either federal or Social Security. Yep. And that's what we're going to do on top of our tax practice. And
that's beautiful. That's really, really strong. And I think what the story you're talking about here with last year and what happened, I remember being in it. I remember thinking at the time, and what we've kind of been talking over the last couple of days, Brian, about is accountability. Like, the plan is only good if there's mutual accountability between your partners, your business partners, and yourself, right? Like, I've got this plan down, and somebody has to help keep each other accountable to that plan. And then when we realize mutually that the plan is not working or there needs to be something shifted, having those good business partners in place is what allows us to make those pivotal shifts to saving a year or making a year or breaking a year, right, as they say.
Well, Alex, you may not know this, but it was last June I made some comment to you about my production being not near where I wanted it to be, and you came back with, well, Brian, how many events have you done for yourself? And
right.
It hit me in the face. You know, like, okay, Brian, are you practicing what you preach? And the point you made is exactly that. Brian, are you holding yourself accountable to what you told me that you were going to do for last year? And I wasn't. And that allowed to kind of go back to the drawing board. We took a look at our first 6 months versus where we wanted to be. And had we not flipped the switch, we certainly wouldn't have ended up with the success that we ended up with last year. Because last year, all in all, it did turn out to be one of our best years for the last 4 or 5 years. But it wouldn't have not changed things. And I will also tell you this. You probably won't meet production in January. Now, guys, whoever's listening to this now, guys and gals, this doesn't help you for this year, but you probably won't meet your January goals if you didn't have some goals in place for December. And we did have the ball rolling, so we've got inventory, if you will. And that's what allowed us to assure that we're going to meet our goal for January, so we don't start off with a negative. Okay, this is totally off, and I hope we're okay on time. But I do things differently too. I set a production level, but I give myself credit for all income that comes into the office. And if we write a life insurance policy, and if I make $1,000, I actually take that 1,000 and divide it backwards at say 6%, and say how much is a $1,000 commission on a life policy worth to me. And I'll give myself $17,000 worth of annuity production, for example. So we have like a $15 million goal. Well, in my mind, I'm going to hit that number. Now, all the companies may not see me hitting 15 million, but in my mind, I know where I am, because what I'm looking at is how much revenue is going to come into
the revenue side. Exactly right. That's what I think a lot of folks, when I'm out there talking with advisors, a lot of folks don't consider the bottom line number, the bottom line revenue number, and that's all different assets. Let's take that moment though to talk about you brought Logan in. Logan's doing Logan, your son, I should say, for those who don't know Logan yet, is doing life and AUM now, right? Is that right?
Right. One of and I know there's some other people with Megastar that are talking about bringing their family in. The first thing I did with Logan was I made him do something that I knew I was weak at. And maybe I shouldn't use weak, but I wasn't giving the effort that I should be, probably be the best way to look at it, and that's life insurance. So I told Logan when he approached me, and I learned my lesson a long time ago to never press one of my kids or family members to work for me. I wanted them to come to me. They obviously knew, everybody knows they have an opportunity, but you've got to want it. And Logan wanted it. He kind of grew up in the last year, and he wants it. He wants to work. And so last year he came to me, and I said, okay, if you're going to work with me, you've got to learn the life insurance business. And so, of course, I'm dad. I gave him some softballs, but it really got him into the situation where he had to understand the life business. And what was really cool, Alex, I'm glad you asked this, he came in my office yesterday and said, hey, Dad, we got to get our life production up. I thought that was cool. Got to get our life production up, because some of the stuff I wrote last year at this time of the year is going to start falling off. And he recognizes the value of that, and which is such a wonderful thing, because we have an unbelievable, let me speak for the group, Alex. Let me speak for everyone listening on this podcast. Every one of you have an inventory of opportunities to write life insurance. So that was a really cool thing that I recognize it's a benefit, a blessing for us to be able to help people. It's a great revenue source, and it's a great way for a new person to learn the business. But also in the meantime, Logan went, studied, and took and passed his Series 65 exam. And I believe over the last 20 years or so, this whole series, well, it wasn't always Series 65, but the securities idea to some people is, wow, why would I get a securities license? It's going to kill my annuity production. For every dollar I put in security side, I could be writing in an annuity. If that's your thought, that's completely wrong. Because our production, one of the reasons why our production jumped in the third quarter of last year is because we had the security side. And the amount of money we were able to capture is just crazy, because the fact is we were now officially a full shop.
Like a wealth management, a difference between an advisor and a wealth manager. You've now shifted into this whole new era of where the consumers kind of shifted their focus anyway, looking for this well-rounded person that can handle everything and make their lives just that much easier, especially in the retirement years where they don't want to be going to 4 different people for 4 different things.
Right, and in this economic environment, how can you argue with having a position in the market right now?
Right.
So, yeah, it's been really good, and I will admit I've got an advantage, and I'm bragging about Logan, but he picked it up instantly, and he was able, and we gave him good tools, we gave him a good system, we gave him a good software program, great presentation material, we gave him good tools, but he understood it, he accepted it, and I am kind of amazed at some of the things that he's doing with our folks now, and it just makes it easier. You know, we picked up, I think, 3 $500,000 clients back to back, and it was really cool. One of them wanted 400 in safe money. The other 2 were about 300 safe and 200 in money under management. But I don't know that I would have gotten. I would have gotten 1 or 2 of them, but probably not all 3 had I not had both pieces of that. And also, any of those folks that are listening that have a tax practice, we probably have $100 million of money inside our shop here with 1,000 clients. And I certainly don't have annuities with all those people. And so now we have an opportunity to go in, and I believe my annuity production will go up with my own existing tax people because Logan will be engaging them on the assets under management side. So
that's been proven time and time again, honestly. Guys think that AUM will come in and steal away their annuity business, but all it does is increase just because of the increases in touches with the client. You're communicating more and more, showing your knowledge more and more, encouraging them to bring more and more assets of theirs over. And that's something I'd ask everybody on the podcast. Think about all your clients and think about how much of what percentage of their total assets do you have in that annuity or whatever services you're offering in your firm. You know, that's always something to ponder. And then that'll help you to consider the fact of, yeah, I might take some of this and put it into AUM if I added that service to my practice, but I'd also probably find a reason to put more of their assets into an annuity or other life products or something like that.
Well, and the whole plan makes more sense now too. And you're not giving just a biased plan for safe money. You're giving a truly unbiased approach to what's appropriate, and it makes sense. And then having Logan on board, obviously, you know, his understanding, it just makes sense. And you know, Alex, I'm not a hard closer. You know, I'm not a hard closer.
Relationship closer for sure. Relationship style, right?
It's like the biggest question I have is what percent safe money versus managed money do you feel comfortable with? That's probably my hardest question. We already know the answer, so we guide them, but that's because it makes so sense, our approach. And this could be another podcast, Alex, about our sales process, what we do and how we do it, but it makes so much sense. It guides people right down the path, and we've just I can't wait for 2020 with what we've got scheduled and what our opportunity is. Yeah. And frankly, I can't wait for the Megastar, all the other folks that work with us at Megastar, because the Learning Lab is why this is so effective. The Learning Lab program is why we blew it up in the third quarter, and we'll be blowing it up in 2020, just because it works.
Well, it has proven to be even beyond Megastar's own expectations of what it could be, and much to do with the people we've brought in over the last year. I don't know if everybody on the podcast knows, but we've basically internalized an entire creative department from social media marketing to website design and graphic design and brochures, anything like that. All of that's inside our own shop here. It's very cool. Brian's obviously had a lot of exposure to it already, but that's helped. Brian, to be more, I guess, in tune with what we're talking about planning-wise today, I guess one of the things that I always have questions for advisors on is, like, to what detail are you going into your planning? You're not just talking about marketing as far as your plan for the year. You're also talking like referral programs and client appreciation stuff, obviously your tax model, business growth. I mean, to what degree are you planning your year? Like, what all are the things you consider when you go into your planning mode in, say, end of the year, November, December time?
Well, since I'm in tax mode today, we came up with a new referral program that we're having a glossy paid 8.5 by 11 flyer created. It's tax time at Benham type thing, and it's a referral appreciation program. We have custom printed vouchers that go in there. I think there's about a half a dozen that go in there. For every referral we receive from a client, they get a $20 discount on their tax return, maximum of 3. That's one thing that we're doing. And here's another thing that we're doing that I think everybody across the board could do. We also have created a new a glossy flyer that now for those of you that are not in the tax business, just assume that you just finished with a financial client of some type. We're going to use this heavily with our tax clients when we're through, but we're going to hand them this flyer, and it gives them 3 different ways to grade our services. One is the Better Business Bureau, one is through Facebook, and one is through Google. And we're simply going to ask for the clients that, 99.9% of our clients love us, okay? So our thing is with every client, we already know which clients have Google email. So those clients, we're going to say, of the 3, would Google work well for you? Because we'd like you to go out there and rate us. And that's another big thing that we're doing this year because we've never pushed that. And so we're going to do that. And there's also a contest so that every time you go out and you rate us, we're not going to tell you what grade to give us, but if you would simply rate us on either Facebook, Better Business Bureau, or Google, your name goes into a hat for a $250 gift card. So that's one thing that we're doing, trying to better brand ourselves. But then I think the referral program, I anticipate the referral program to bring in at least 100 additional referrals on top of the 7 to 8% of annual referrals we get anyway.
Right.
So those are some things that we're doing there, and that's solely just on our tax practice. We get a lot of referrals from our financial side just because of what we're doing. However, I didn't get a lot of referrals over my career. I've not received as many referrals in a short period of time as the number that we received at the end of last year, and I believe it's 100% because of my relationship with Logan and the security side. That made a difference, and I think that's probably going to drive some people as well.
No doubt. It's definitely been a sight to see your growth in the last quarter. I guess we'll do one more question. Obviously, since we're so much strapped for time, I want to make sure we keep these things short and stomachable, something that people can listen to either on their drive into the office in the morning or when they've got a lunch break or something. So I'm going to ask one more question. Basically, I would love for you to just sum up, what do you think the most important thing for advisors to keep in mind when it comes to planning their year? Like, what is it that you deem the most important thing? Is it whether assessing last year, really diving deep into the numbers and figuring out what to keep and what to bail on? What's the most important thing to you each year when you're sitting down and saying, here's what I'm going to do for the next year?
Well, you've got to work your plan. And you've got to be aggressive, and you can't be afraid to spend a little bit of money. There have been times, and I have a couple of other agents that I help here in Indiana. Their production doesn't count at all towards mine. They're completely independent. You know a couple of them. Yep. And I had this meeting with them, and one of them in northern Indiana, he's committed to 15 workshops. His first one is next Wednesday night, and the other one is committed to 12. And so I told them, if we're going to commit to these, I'm putting them on my calendar. That's a day that I've earmarked for you. There's 27 days this year that I have an expectation that they're going to do those events because I blocked that date and I don't want to waste any time. So to them, I said, look, if you're going to commit to these, you're going to do them, because if you do them, you're going to be successful because you're always going to bring new people in. I don't care if only 5 people show up. If there's somebody new for you to talk to, and you over time, you develop this momentum that allows you, for example, like I said a few minutes ago, to finish the year strong with a carryover of people into January. And you won't get that unless you work your plan for 6 months to 12 months, where you've always got new people coming in. And obviously the name of this game is seeing new faces, but it doesn't. I'm not worried about volume as much as I'm consistency, that you continue to work your plan. And I think that's probably it. And then you've heard me say this before, but I believe this with all my heart. I don't care whether you have $1 or $1 million, you're going to be treated the same way with Venom. And we help everybody and anybody. I don't care who you are. You come to one of our events, you hear my speech, and you say, Brian, I need help. I don't look at your financial statement to determine if I'm going to help you. I'm going to sit down and do something for you, even if it's just a Social Security analysis and a retirement report. You're going to get something from me, because that's my commitment, and you've got to stand with your commitment. You've got to do that to every single person. And I just wrote, you haven't even seen this yet, but we just placed $240,000 in 2 contracts with American Equity. They just showed up on the board today, folks, and they came from his sister, who came to a Social Security event that had a little bit of money in an account that I told her and her husband, I can't do any better than where you are. I want you to keep it where you are, but here's a few of the things I'd like you to keep in mind, and thank you very much. And they looked at me like I couldn't believe it, but they referred their brother to me, and we just wrote $250,000 on the annuity side, and Logan picked up $140,000 under managed. We picked up $400,000. We did the right thing with his sister.
And one of the things I'd say on that, kudos, but I will say this, just to echo, for anybody that doesn't know, I've traveled a lot, sat with a ton of advisors, spoken with even more on the phone, and there's nobody, Brian, that has a better referral process than you. And when you say things like, oh, we were slacking in referrals compared to the next guy over, I'd say when people sit down and look at their numbers, they're probably doing about, I don't know, a 10th or maybe even 100th in sometimes the amount of referrals that you're doing, even when you're not trying or before you had AUM and Logan on your team and such like that. So that's a testament to doing these kind of things. And I've heard you say that since I've known you, where, you've just done right by the client, put your head down, do the right thing, constantly sit down with anybody that wanted to sit down with you, and the funds, the money, those types of things just seem to follow. Yeah,
well, thank you and for noticing, but I do pride myself on that being our internal motto, if you will.
Right. Yep. So much to do about the planning world. I mean, the planning side of this is obviously that time of year. January is huge in planning. I think a lot of advisors, that's at top of mind right now. I've been sitting down with constant advisors talking about their business plans and such, and we are doing that for anybody on the podcast. If you want to sit down, analyze your business, get a plan together for this year, me and my team here at Megastar are here to help. Brian, obviously, and I have worked closely for a long time doing these things. Brian, I just want to thank you so much for being on the show today and talking to us a little bit about your plans and what you do each and every year. It means a lot, absolutely. All you do for Megastar means a lot.
No problem, and I tell you, Alex, I would welcome anybody who wants to call me. Call my office. If you miss me, leave a message. I'll find a time to call you back and let you know a little bit more detail about what we do. But I'll finish that by posing the question: what are you going to do different this year than you did last?
Well, I think those are good words to end on, Brian. Thank you very much. And as always, everybody,